All right. Campus labs. All right. Ooh, where do you think you're at? So the IDEA surveys, where do you think you're at?
87%.
87%. Any other guesses?
Above 70.
It was above 70. Is that on Wednesday? Look at that. So we only have one person didn't do it, I think. So we're good. So I did adjust. I adjusted the extra credit based on these IDEA forms. Big reason was I was looking at the grades. This is really the first time that we've, other than last year. Last year's exams were online because we still had to cover the COVID. We were still under COVID protocols. But this is the first year where we didn't do my traditional exams, which were really just all short answers. That's all they were. So I'm trying to get a handle on number of questions and difficulty of questions, because oftentimes with those short answer questions, you can get partial credit. You know, if I ask a question like, you know, how does Trypanosoma brucei escape the host immune system, right? You might get partial credit if you just said, well, it was the VATs, but you left off, says, you know, more of the specifics, that periodic changes. It's also shielding. That's also, you know, involved. But on like the multiple choice questions, if you didn't know that, that's, you know, you can get like basically 0 points on that. So I'm still trying to figure out the balance in the question types and the difficulty of the question. So that is kind of why we adjusted it. So that's pretty good. 94%.
Did you expect that to happen?
What?
90%?
Yeah, I did.
Oh, really?
I did.
I've never seen it that high.
No, we hit. Let's see here. Let me check. Yeah, my grad class, I don't do that. Let's see. I don't know if they give it. I'm going back to the fall to see if they give percentages. Why are we slow? Yep. Ecology hit 90%. Biostats did not. We only had 61%. That was surprising. Last year's class, let's see here, spring 21. Yeah, last year's class we had 21 students, all 21 completed it. Right? I didn't care about the 4181 class because I taught seminar that year. Let's see here. And then that fall of COVID was 98% in the ecology class. That was 58 out of 59. Yep.
Did you say if we donated blood that we could get extra credit?
Yep. Yep.
You want to see that?
The form?
Yes.
Yep. Yeah, I will. After class, I'll get you marked. Yeah, so normally when you do the IDEA, when you offer the carrot, it improves. So it helps the response rate, and that's pretty good. I get some good percentages. So awesome. Those, I'll tell you, the results don't become available until after those grades are due, and I don't even think they become available on like that Monday. So like grades have to be uploaded on Monday the 16th by noon, I don't think I don't think the IDEA becomes available until the following week. So we don't get to see. We don't know who submitted it. We don't get to see any of the comments that get submitted, or I should say, the names attached to the comments. We don't get to see any of that stuff. So thanks for doing that. That's pretty cool. All right, final exam Monday. All right, so 10:30. I don't know if there's an exam going on before us in here, but I can easily get up here at 10 after or quarter after 10 if you wanted to start early to get a little bit longer than the 2 hours. But once we hit 12:30, I'm gonna need to pick it up because I do believe there is a 12 o'clock class in here. So, we need to be done by that 1 o'clock time span. The exam is basically in the same format. It's basically twice as long. So it is, instead of out of 100 points, it's out of 200 points. There are 60 of those multiple choice. So instead of having 20 multiple answer questions, there's only 15, and then the rest are multiple choice. And I did catch one today where it was that should have been one answer, but it wasn't. There's actually two answers, so I fixed it. But that's 120 points. Is that multiple choice section, or multiple answer / multiple choice section, and then we have disease names. Again, you have a word list, list of species to pick from. Use that as a guide. That should. I'll tell you, I do not have all species that we covered on that word list because that would be literally like half the page. So I've kind of pared it down and also tried to reduce any sort of confusion. So if I asked, what species causes schistosomiasis, right? Well, we've covered Schistosomiasis mantonii, Japonicum, and Hematobium. You may only have one of those choices. So that way there's no question. Same thing with like malaria, right? 4 different species called malaria. So the word list is pared down. Some of you might feel it's a little bit easier that way, but we did do that. And then we have, instead of a diagnosis, it's a symptoms. I told you that is still one aspect of it. Yeah, you may have a multiple choice or a multiple answer question that says, hey, what type of symptoms could you experience if you have schistosomiasis or whatever? But then this section, instead of just a flat out diagnosis, it's more of an open answer, free answer type one where I'll ask you, okay, give you schistosomiasis, and then the questions, what are the symptoms? What are the key symptoms or key pathology associated with that disease or that parasite? So I can give a parasite or I can give a disease. So knowing like what the key characteristics are, and that's in place of the diagnosis section. There's 15 for both of those, 15 common disease names, and then 15 of the symptoms. And then we have our life cycles. The life cycles are set up just like our exam 3 life cycle. So instead of asking you to diagram specific life cycles, I've kind of went through and tried to do like an even distribution based on our 3 units. So platyhelminthes, nematodes, and then our acanths and protozoan. So go through, and those are going to be just like our exam 3 where I ask questions, maybe what's the host, what's the larval stage in the host, or where do you find the larval stage, or where do you find the adult in that host? Maybe how is it transmitted? How does the host become infected? Questions like that. So if you add it up, there's 60 of those multiple choice, there's 15 and 15 of the next 2, and then all the rest are life cycle questions. So there's 120 points total tied to those multiple choice, 30 points for the disease names and the symptoms, and then 50 points would be on our life cycles. So 50 points is a quarter, which is about where we were on all of the other exams. All the other exams were normally 20 points, 20 out of about 100, so it was about a quarter. Twice as long. It seems daunting. Seems daunting. I could just look at it and it's like the grading is going to be daunting.
As far as like the multiple choice goes, is there going to be like any kind of like, 60-40 with like new material, like that's going over on the board?
Oh yeah, the new material, you'll have some questions on there. That's not anywhere close to 60 or 40%. I think maybe out of the total, so we'll say out of the 200 points, it may be a max of about 10% or so, because we really only had about 3 lectures or so. We went over definitions, we went over some of the math. And again, don't memorize the equation. Look at the equation, know the different parts of the equation, know like what those terms were, and really kind of how these adaptations affected those terms. So if we asked about, hey, host behavior modification, where did that fit in on this equation? Like, how did that affect it? Our parasite transmission, like where did it affect, and so forth. So that's our new material. So we'll take it on Monday. I'm going to try to grade it. I'm going to say it's unlikely that I'll finish it all on Monday, but who knows? The plan when I do finish grading it is to post final exam grades up in Blackboard along with the overall course grade. We do have extra credit coming in, so I didn't make a column for blood donation and I don't really have to do it for the IDA, that's standard, but we have the scenario as well. That's due on Monday. I'll have separate columns so that you can see the points that were added. The blood is added to exam 3, the scenario gets added to exam 2, and the scenario is up to 5. So if you just hand in one parasite and just the parasite name, don't expect to get 5. The task was to go through and figure out what parasite and why, and explain the parasite or the parasites, why you think it's that, based on the symptoms that are exhibited. Right? What produced those symptoms? Actually, trying to do that might help you with studying for the exam. All right, questions? Yep.
When is the honors paper due?
It should be due on that Monday, but we can probably take it on that Tuesday or Wednesday, because I can't. The form you're gonna hand in the paper, and you're gonna include that honors form too that I need to sign. All right. When you have those, I'll take them over to Dr. Oaf when I'm done. So yeah, that'll definitely be modified for the honor students. So yeah, ideally it would be that Monday, but I can take it probably. I could probably take it Wednesday morning, because would probably be when I'm going back to look at those. So by Wednesday morning, I would say by 9 o'clock in the morning.
And how long do you expect a brief review to be?
The what?
A brief review.
What do you mean a brief review?
You said a brief review of the parasite community.
Oh, you're gonna write it like a lab report or like a mini research paper.
Okay.
So yeah, when you get you'll have your methods on what you did, right? You're gonna have an introduction, like background. Why are we doing this? Your methods, your results is presenting what you did, and then discussion. So how does your community compare with, what we know in the literature? Are there surprises, or is there, why might you see certain things? You'll need a works cited, because you're going to have to cite papers, and Dr. Oaf is grading these, so part of the grade is grammar and stuff. She says she reads every single one of them, and I don't doubt it. Like I could tell you, if I try to read some of like the English stuff, that's when you need to fall asleep at night and you can't, start reading those. Probably wouldn't even make it through page 1. All right, other questions? Any questions on the material? Close this out.
I have a question. He was asking about how you wanted the extra credits.
No, he was asking for the honors.
How do you want the extra credits in one?
Typed up.
It could just be like paragraph.
Yeah, you can do it in paragraph form. You can do, start with paragraph form and then kind of do a list. So if you say, yeah, I think you're infected with 3 different parasites and these are the parasites and why.
Okay.
You can do it like that. Or if you think it's one parasite and this is why, these are all the symptoms. That's assessed on accuracy. How accurate are you in describing these symptoms? It's also give some credit. So if you have, if there was some creativity on some of these symptoms that you found that like we didn't necessarily cover in class, then maybe that could fit. Several of these symptoms could be caused by viral pathogens or bacterial pathogens, but that's not what I used. And that's, you can't just default back to whatever you may have learned in pathogenic micro if you took it last year. When you come in to take the final, you'll hand it in. Grades are posted. I didn't add the points for the blood because we didn't really have anyone on there. It is labs 25%, lectures 75%, and when you look at the final exam grade replacement, there is always ways to improve the grade significantly. So, if you have an 80% on a final exam and you replace a 60% on, let's say, exam 2, that's a pretty big switch, pretty big transition. So, I could figure out what's going on, like what do you need to score to get certain grades. It's kind of how my spreadsheet is set up to do that. Other things.
Content related, for the psilocybin duodenally, for the pathology in the intestinal phase, I have that it's caused by movement in the GI tract, but what life cycle stage is that?
For ancylostoma, pathology, no, the movement really doesn't cause a whole lot of damage. For the hookworms, what causes most of the pathology? Yeah, it's the feeding. So in the intestine, they are cutting the intestine to feed on epithelial tissue and blood. So it's the blood loss, it's the damage caused by the feeding aspect. That's what's causing it. And that's in terms of ankylostoma or ancylostoma and Necator, it's going to be the same type of pathology. Difference between those two is how much blood they or how much feeding they actually do. So I'll let you go back and look up which one feeds on more blood and what that means for the host. Some of the pathology for ascaris is due to movement up and down. So that's where we could have like the exit, or they go into the stomach and you start feeling nauseous because you're feeling something's in there, which is gross. Again, exit just freaks me out. I think that would be seeing a worm awful. All right.
Would it be better to study all the test material, like go back through all of our tests, or just go based on the notes?
Both. Both. So I will tell you, when I put the tests together I make a comprehensive exam that includes every question that I might ask. And then the exams get pared down. Every year, new sets of questions get used. Sometimes those questions were also from a quiz. Sometimes you'll see questions that did not appear on a quiz, did not appear on an exam. So if you only studied the quizzes and the exams, you might only have 70% of the questions that get asked. Maybe. Depends on what the breakdown is that year. So that's why I say both. A good way to go about studying it. So you have the actual exams, right? What I would probably do is start with first questions and find that in the notes and answer it using your notes. That gets you into the notes. You're going to find material before and after that section. So you're studying the notes while you're reviewing and trying to answer these past exams. And then you can kind of go back and try to do the same thing with the quizzes. They're going to be harder, but you should be able to access the quizzes. And some of those, again, you'll see some of the questions were asked the same way, or had different question sets, different answer sets. That's also one. So again, just memorizing the question. I do see it where people memorize the question and say, "Oh yeah, this is this answer," but they don't read the full answer because I change it, right? Kellen shaking his head. He must have been a victim of one of those.
Well, I was thinking all of them are similar.
Yeah, they are. So yeah, I have a big question set, and then every year I just kind of have to go down and figure out which questions are going to be asked. And of course, the new material, we didn't have any questions on that. So yeah, that's my recommendation for the studying. You could kind of review the notes, kind of flip through the notes, and then kind of hit the questions. What that doesn't do though is cover all of like the common the species with the common names, the disease names, and symptoms, because not all of those get asked. I think the quizzes tried to ask most of those questions, but there's some that that obviously we miss. So yeah, I think a great way to study is to take the old exams, use your notes to try to answer those exams, and then check the key. Were you right? Were you correct in answering those questions? Have seen some students have talked to me and said when they took that advice, they felt like they made significant improvement on the final. So it's a form of active learning, and you retain more information when you go through that active learning. But just doing it one time isn't going to be sufficient. After you do it the one time, you have to go back and re-review it. It takes like 24 hours for memory neurons to set. So that's also a reason why you shouldn't wait until Sunday night to start studying. Hopefully you've already started reviewing. Other questions? No? All right. No other questions? All right. If you don't have any questions, we're done. We're not lecturing. This is it. I wanted to end everything on Wednesday so you could start reviewing. You can email me with questions, but just know I'm going to be really delayed because I don't have that Outlook app on my phone yet, and I haven't had a chance to reset my phone and reinstall everything. And it's like, I'm dreading that. But the only time I could get my emails when I could actually physically go and check, so I don't get the auto notifications. But if you send emails, it might take me several hours to check and get back to you. That's Almost done. Almost done. All right. Hopefully you learned a little something, right? Like, don't eat raw fish. Right?
I've told so many people that.
They laugh. Well, if you stop eating meat, you can still there are still parasites that can infect you, right? Angiostrongylus.
Isn't that why like pregnant women can't eat like salads and stuff?
You can eat salads. It's just you should wash.
They can't eat a lot of salads.
No, you should wash it. Just make sure it's washed. We don't have that. We don't really have that problem around here. We don't really have it. But that doesn't guarantee it.
I don't have it on me right now, but I will. I've been around like 3 or 4 women after that.